Welcome to the SIWIKE podcast, the only podcast that shares the stuff you didn't know you needed to know about jobs, careers, and life. The SIWIKE podcast, the stuff I wish I knew earlier.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the SIWIKE Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier, the podcast. I'm your host Luki, and for today's topic, I thought I'd go into a little bit on Professionalism 101. So I get questions that after people go through the excitement of the job hunt and they actually get an offer, they accept the role, then they get nervous and anxious about, oh my gosh, I'm actually about to start. What do I actually need to do? And I wanted to break down professionalism. Well, there's a whole bunch to talk about, but in a couple of points. So the first one is to understand expectations. The second one is to communicate. The third one is to follow through on commitments. The fourth is taking initiative. And we'll wrap it all together in what I call pre-writing your resume. So the first one, understanding expectations. So what I encourage you to do is thinking about what it is that will be necessary for you to start on your first day. And it starts by, one of the first expectations is to show up on time. And if not on time, early. There's an expression that if you're on time, you're late. So try to be early and plan to be early. And there's another expression, it's better to be an hour early than a minute late. And a lot of it shows the kind of respect that you have for that person in showing up on time. And what you want to do is be prepared. What sort of information do you need? What sort of documents do you need to review? What sort of things might be necessary? And asking that up front, not just showing up and assuming they'll give it to you. Ask ahead of time. By the way, is there anything that I should know or prepare for before I show up? And they might say no, and if that's the case, then you're all set. And if they do give you materials, oftentimes there's onboarding documents or other material that you might need to go through. So take a look at if you can do that before. The second part is to communicate. So oftentimes that's getting information from your bosses, your future manager, your teammates to understand, well, what is it that you actually need to do? And then actually playing it back to them, say, okay, did I understand that this is what I need to do? And oftentimes you want to make sure that there's some sort of time understanding of it, right? Do you need to submit it by the end of the day, the end of the week, the end of the month? And oftentimes there's an expression that if it's not reported, then it's not done. So think about that. Part of professionalism is to communicate, and part of communication is letting people know that it's done. So if you finish the work, the report, or whatever, and it just stays there, then it doesn't count as being finished until you email your boss or let them know that you've completed it. Make sure you communicate and ask them questions about, well, am I doing it correctly? So if you have something due by the end of the week, what you may not want to do, what you should probably do instead, is to go to them maybe tomorrow and say, hey boss, well, probably not say hey boss, but hi boss, how are you doing? Would you have a minute of time to review? I've made some progress on the work that I'm doing, and I would love your insights on whether I'm going about it in the right way. And sometimes it'll take 2 minutes, 5 minutes, or whatever, and it'll be a big sigh of relief for them because they are comfortable that you are getting through it in the way that they want. And if they're too busy, that's fine, but at least you made the attempt so that when the end of the week comes along, then you're not surprised, or they're not surprised when you don't give them exactly what they want. So make sure you communicate. The third one is to follow through. So when you say that you will do something, make sure that you do it. So sometimes you'll make commitments, yeah, I'll get it to you by tomorrow, or I'll do this, I'll send you that, or whatever. And sometimes people don't actually follow through. And I find that the people who do follow through are the ones that develop the reputation as being someone who gets stuff done, and the one that gets promoted faster, and the one who often gets more opportunities. So making sure that as you make commitments, as you say that you're going to do things, do it. And if you make a commitment for a particular time, do your best to get it done. And what you'll need to do is also figure out whether your estimation is good. Oftentimes, if you think that it's going to be 1 day to do it, you should probably double it just to be safe. And it's better to under-promise and over-deliver than overpromise and underdeliver, right? So if you say that I'm going to give it in 2 days and you end up doing it in 1, well, that's much better than saying that you'll deliver it in 1 day and deliver it in 2. So making sure that you follow through on your expectations. And the last thing that I encourage you to do is to think about taking some initiative. So instead of just doing what you're told to do in terms of all the activities, if you have a free minute, if you have some time, thinking about what else could be done, what else would benefit the company or the role, and thinking about, well, could I take half an hour, or even longer in my day to get it done? Especially if you have time on your hands where you're not fully into a project, make sure that time is productive. And oftentimes it's better to tell your boss, oh, I noticed that this sort of work would be necessary and would be valuable to the group. Could I do that? Versus oftentimes folks will think taking initiative is, hey, do you have any work for me to do? Well, that's not exactly taking initiative. That's just asking for work. Initiative is you going forward and saying, okay, I think this would add value to the company, to the role, and I'll definitely spend my extra time or free time to do it. So making sure you take some initiative. And where that all kind of culminates or manifests itself is I encourage folks to what I call pre-write their resume. And what that is over the next 3 months to 4 months or however long you want, generally 4 months is a good block of time for you to demonstrate some progress, is to write down what it is you want to do. And oftentimes what you can do is take a look at future jobs or opportunities that you want to do, and if there are some gaps on your resume in that you don't have that experience, well, this is a great time to do it, for you to see if you can get some more leadership or experience with the technology or teamwork or whatever it is that you haven't had before. You can proactively seek out those opportunities instead of just taking and writing whatever happened. So take your time to pre-write your resume, and that'll go a long way to developing your professionalism. So making sure you understand expectations, making sure you communicate, you also follow through on your expectations, and you take some initiative. So that's some basic on professionalism, and hopefully that was some useful SWIKE, the stuff I wish I knew earlier, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for joining us on the SWIKE, Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier, the podcast. If you like the podcast, please subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you found this podcast. And if you can give us a review, that would be very appreciated. Feel free to contact me on LinkedIn at Luki Danu, LUKIDANU, and the same on most social media platforms. And I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks. Bye.